Hello and welcome to the Worship Hearts podcast. We wanted to talk about, well, Dad, I'll let you share with our listeners what you were wanting to talk about this evening.
Well, there's several aspects of what I was looking at tonight. The biggest thing that kind of jumped out at me, well, there was actually two things that really jumped out at me. Um, One is the idea of how do you worship, or can it be even asked, how should you worship? And that's a pretty broad stroked question,
Right.
because as we discussed last week, there are seemingly as many denominations as there are people
Sure.
when it comes to um, biblical translations and or biblical interpretations of theology and all of those types of things, and yet all of that doesn't change God any.
Oh, right. Right.
So it really is up to us to try and figure out what it is that, for a lack of a better term, pleases God,
Okay.
and that is in our acts of worship.
Mm-hmm.
We know that without faith, no one can please God. So that's, I don't want to say it's a given, but it is an understood element of worship, in that there has to be an object to be worshipped, and then there has to be some sort of an object that is doing the worshiping.
Right.
And without the idea of Romans 1:21, where all things were created so that man is without excuse, simply because of the creation, we know that there is a God.
Mm-hmm.
This idea, since we know that, and those things are beyond dispute, um, and there can be debates on all kinds of craziness about that, but because that is not the dispute in question here, or the idea in question here, is then, since we know that there is a God, how
Mm-hmm.
do we best worship the God that we serve?
Okay. Jumping in
So there you have
heavy,
it.
episode 3.
Yeah. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, to kind of summarize that just a little bit, how do we worship,
Hmm.
and what does God have to do with that? Would that?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, to start off with, this is kind of an interesting perspective that I've come across recently. We all worship, whether we are a Christian or not, whether we have faith in God or not. All humans worship something because it's a matter of prioritizing our time, right? So if
Ah,
I'm
it's
if
good.
I'm spending hours on my phone, then that could be considered worship, especially if I prioritize this over other things that I should be doing, like
Yes.
the dishes or spending time with my family or working at my job. Not
Yes.
that I've ever done that,
Oh
but
no.
so yeah, kind of an interesting perspective that we are all worshipers, and really it boils down to what are you worshiping, and then to kind of fall into that next question, what does God have to do with it? Well, good grief, if He is the creator of the universe, He's the one that knit us together. He's the one that is and has always been and will always be. He is the
Right.
one who, after creating this incredible world and spinning it on its axis and starting everything in motion, um, showed up and said, "All right, everything was okay to start with, but y'all kind of, messed this up a little bit. Things haven't gone quite the way
That's right.
that we
Yeah.
had originally intended. So I'm gonna offer my son as a sacrifice, a perfect sacrifice, and he will bear the weight of all sin, past, present, and future,
Wow.
so that we get to, again, like we mentioned last week, share in that inheritance of spending the rest of our um, eternity with the one who made us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Good grief. I think
That's
God
pretty
has
crazy.
everything to do with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a pretty scary thought when it is still the selfishness of humanity that prevents us from living truly in the blessings of our
Mm,
Creator. Uh, so many times that we should be living far greater, far blessed, more blessed life. And I'm not talking about having things. Things aren't necessarily the problem.
right.
Um, but but we live so far beneath the potential that God designed us to
Oh,
live.
man.
And in that aspect, that has everything to do with the relationship between the creator and its creation.
Yeah.
And wow, how, how easily we get distracted from living, first of all, in that potential,
Mm-hmm.
and how easily we get distracted in living uh, outside of the blessings of God's protection and
Yeah.
of God's um, just blessings of life itself. Every breath, every heartbeat, every movement that we have, and I know that there are people that suffer. I know that there are people that aren't physically able to do what a lot of other people do, but their heart, their being has
Mm-hmm.
the capability of still worshiping
Yeah.
their creator, even in the aspect of the imperfections that our selfishness as humanity has created and has snowballed in our society. Wow, to have people that live so far above that in spite of the issues of physical and mental uh, disabilities or incapabilities at times. I think back to my friend who um, I just, man, I was just in awe of how he would live his life. My friend Roy had a degenerative eye disease. He had kidney disease. He had diabetes. He just seemingly his body just continued to just deteriorate, and yet I asked him one time, so how do you explain a loving God? How do you explain a generous God? How do you explain a God that says, I care about you when you're in this condition? He says, he looked at me, he says, what are you talking about? I said, well, you're going blind and you have this. He said, this is not my home. This is just a body. He says, this is not who I am. And so for him to live life, though physically he was somewhat restricted, he still lived life with the love of God that just oozed out
Yeah.
all the time, and
Yeah.
sometimes it burst out in, several different types of emotions, and so that's kind of one of the things that, we wanna talk about tonight is this: how do we worship? How should we worship? A God who still wants to bless us over and over and over and over again. Um, do we have to always be standing, or should we be kneeling before a holy God? Uh,
Well, it has to be at 10:30 on a Sunday morning, and you have to wear a suit and tie, and you have to sing all 6 verses of
okay,
whatever
well,
hymn.
I'm already messed up because we start at 10, uh,
uh,
so we're trying to get there first, I
right.
guess. That's what that
Yeah.
is.
Okay. Okay. Trying to beat the Baptist to the restaurant. That's
Something like that. I don't know. Just trying to get a head start somewhere in there.
yeah.
Oh man, yeah. What are those things though? What are the? I mean, because the world is round,
Sure.
and the other side of the world is a day ahead of us, or
Right. Right.
a day behind us, whichever way you want to look at it. The fact still remains: there is a moment and a place in this time and space that we call Earth that gives us the opportunity to worship
Yeah.
our Creator.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
That is cool. It's fantastic. It's an incredible opportunity, and it's one that's not shared across the world. Unfortunately, this incredible world that we uh, live in, thanks to our Creator, not everybody on it gets to worship freely, like we do in the western half of the world, and
Right,
um, it's certainly a check. When you think about that it is a privilege to get to gather together, to be able to gather as a body in a building that is built for the purpose of worshiping God, and not have to worry about any kind of government or anything like that coming in and shutting
right,
things down,
right.
and even not to get too heavy, but even to the point of murdering people for
Oh
what
my,
they're
yeah,
worshiping.
yeah.
Um, we have it pretty stinking easy here in the U.S. especially, um, and it's wild to think that I'm guilty of taking advantage of that.
Right,
Or that's not the right word for it, but just kind of shrugging off the importance of that gathering. Um, and my goodness, it is it is vitally important for the body to gather together. I think I'm jumping ahead here a little bit. Why do we worship? Um, it
how do
or
we worship?
how do we worship? How do we worship?
Why is for another episode.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure we'll cover that one 100 times over. Um, but why do we worship? We worship um, because well, let me back up even more. So I have started a book. I'm not good at book things. Um, I am
I confess also.
yeah, I'm just not a book person. I'm trying to get better about that. I ordered several books with some birthday money this year, but this one in particular that I have started is called The Worship Architect, and it's by Constance Cherry. A blueprint for designing culturally relevant and biblically faithful services. All kinds of good stuff there on the cover, and I'm about oh 10 pages in. Um, but the
It's a good
basis,
start.
yeah, the basis of what she goes into and explains is that worship is a revelation of God. Worship is our response to the revelation of who God is, or what God has done for us, or what He has brought us through, or how He has blessed us, or So why do we worship? To me, is just that. It is this revelation of the blessings and the greatness and the awe and the power and the magnificence that is God. All the superlatives, all of them
Sure,
combined, mashed together
sure.
in their own right. Yeah,
And that why um, lends itself, once we understand the why of worshiping God, then it is we are in a juxtaposition of then trying to figure out how, where,
right.
when, um, and so a- all of those elements then come into play as well. And one of my favorite songs right now, and I too am not a real big bookworm, but I'm learning. Read a couple, and I've I don't want to say a shameless plug, but I'll at least plug it. I'm just getting started with this one. It's one of my favorite groups, bands. David Crowder has a book. It's called Praise Habit, and it's
Mm.
finding God in sunsets and sushi. I haven't quite got that figured out yet, but I also drive a school bus in the morning, so I know what it looks like to see a sunrise,
Yeah.
and I've watched lots of sunsets and just sit there in awe and stand in awe of the colors that are incapable of being replicated by
Yep.
humanity.
Yep.
And so I understand that that I am simply a man that has been created with the opportunity then to worship my creator. Um, eh, but one of my favorite songs right now is a Phil Wickham song. It's called "House of the Lord,"
Mm.
and it's we worship the God who was, the God who is, and the God who evermore will be. Um, and it tells a couple of reasons again, a couple of reasons why, because he does this and he's done this and he's doing this and and he gives this and he's you know and yet the song continues on and says, so we just sit there quietly and raise an eyebrow in worship.
Mm.
No, that's not what the song says. Hey, and because of the why, our spirits, our bodies, our minds should understand that the how also is a response to the reality of who God is and who God is in us and for us and with us and around us. So I love this. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Now, there's other times that we need to be reverent because there is reverence in the house of the Lord. Um, but there is also times when we need to make Jesus famous.
Yeah.
We need to be the ones that are shouting it from the rooftops, shouting it from the mountains, sharing it with everybody we come in contact with. Uh, when I was younger and I bought a new car, well, I've never bought a new car. Let me take that step back. But when I bought my first car, or when I bought my next car, and it was a younger model, it was a newer car to me. Man, I got in that thing and drove it all over town.
Oh yeah.
I shared it with my friends. I showed my friends. I showed everybody that, check out my new ride,
That's it.
And yet when we have sometimes I see the disconnect when we have the reality of a savior living within us, that somehow all of a sudden that means that we need to keep quiet and not share that with anybody.
Mm.
And I have a little bit of a difficulty with that. And especially when we do get in the house of the Lord, when we do come together, when we do share with one another. Um, we should be able, especially with those that are like minded, share with each other what God is doing in our lives. And the simplicity of it, how do we do that? We speak it, we sing it, we shout it, we lift it, we show it. There's lots of ways,
Yeah.
whether it's standing up, kneeling down, bowing prostrate in in uh, in front of everybody. The simplicity of it is we should be worshiping, as we heard last week, in spirit and in truth, and in the reality of that with our whole being,
Yeah.
some way
Yeah.
responsive to who God is within us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man. Uh that's good
Sorry,
stuff.
I got a little passionate about
Oh,
that. I
I,
probably shared a little longer than I should have, but
no, I love it. I love it. Um, yeah, probably one of the most powerful songs on the radio right now. Um, I actually shared it at church yesterday. I talked with my pastor. I'm not currently leading worship, so I talked with my pastor about playing a song or sharing the song with our congregation, and he was gracious enough to lend me that time. I played for communion. I speak Jesus, and
oh
Dad,
yes,
you and I have talked about this one, um, and I there were two or three times I broke up trying to sing. I mean, we didn't have
yes,
words on the screen or anything like it. It was just me and the guitar, and I'm trying to make my way through this thing, and I'm falling apart over this song. And
yeah,
yet, the whole point of me sharing this was so people could hear the
yeah,
power in these words, in this response that I have. Again, this revelation of who God is and who Jesus is, and the power that is the name of Jesus. I speak. I just want to speak the name of Jesus over fear and all anxiety. To every soul held
yes,
captive by depression, I speak Jesus, and
yes,
I'm getting goosebumps just
yes,
walking through these lyrics right now.
yes,
My goodness, he is
yes,
he is I, he's more than words. The word you shared last week, that indescribable word. Oh, phooey, I can't even remember it now.
Ineffable.
Ineffable. That one. Uh, yeah. I like even when we try and put it in words, even when the words fail to come out of our mouth because we are so riddled with the realization of who Christ is and who God is. Uh, Good grief, it's just amazing.
Yes,
Um, to it's a it's amazing, and I'm gonna rabbit trail this one just for a half a second.
sure.
It's amazing to get to share a song like this with my congregation, with the 50 or 60 people that were there yesterday. It's amazing to know that when I go to CCLI Top 100 and I look up what songs are on that top list, and I think Planning Center does it too. But the top 100 in the U.S., top 100 in the U.K., Australia, Canada, blah blah blah. But to know that not only am I sharing this song with my congregation, but this song is being shared on a global level with the
Yes,
global church, the Big C
yes,
church. Um,
yes,
Man, oh man, to know that we get to sing these words together and to
yes,
celebrate who Christ is, and it's yeah. So I completely understand the power of the hymns, and because that's been one of the arguments that I've heard. Right? Well, people have been singing this song for generations, and it's incredible to know that we get to share this song with my grandparents and my great grandparents, and their
right.
grandparents, and so on. And and yes, absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree with that. But I also see the power in corporate worship with a worldwide church. You know, Build My Life is number one right now on CCLI's top 100 in the U.S.
Nice.
And again, another incredibly powerful song. Um, I get to sing that with my church, and I get to sing that with my church, my my
Yes. Right.
my church, the church that I'm a part of, the church that is bigger than me, the church that is bigger than anything that I could imagine or influence or anything like that.
Yes.
Uh, and so yeah, I again goosebumps, and I'm running out of words because of how powerful it is to know uh, that something like music, something like a song, is bigger than me to the
Right.
point of it being. I
Right.
mean, if I had my way, everybody on a Sunday, like you know, Eastern time would start at 10 a.m. and then Central time would start at 9 a.m. and 8 and 7 and so on,
Right.
all the way
Right.
around the world, right?
Yeah.
And there's one song that all the churches sing that week, and we all sing it at the same time, as a universal voice that
Right.
is around the world. How incredible would that be
Yeah.
for all of us to get to sing that song together? And
Yeah.
at least with this ounce of technology here, we get to see some of that happening. It's so cool.
It
It's
is
so cool.
cool. It is cool. And as we've been admonished in through the scripture to do just that, uh, psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, uh, we're also admonished in the process to say, God tells us, sing a new song. David, the psalmist, tells us, sing a new song. Well, why? Because God's mercies are new each day.
Yes.
We need to be celebrating each day.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we throw away the past, but yesterday is gone.
Hmm.
We get to build upon it, and we get to look forward to the hope that is still yet to come. And so we get to sing about the hope as well, not just a matter of saying, "Oh, what was," because the hope is based upon what was. Our life is based upon what was and what is, and the hope still is what is to come. And when we know and understand, again, this relationship with God is God,
Mm-hmm.
and He has brought us through every element, brought us through all these details in our lives. Amazingly, I don't know how He does it. I don't know. I don't even really know why, other than we find in the scriptures that it's because He created us and He wants this personal relationship with each of us. But I don't know how. I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
And so in the simplicity of that, then it is my response on how I do this, on how I worship, whether I'm clapping my hands at a time of praise, if I'm lifting my hands in a time of praise,
Yeah.
if I've looked out over our congregation at times, over the years, 20 plus years of leading worship, and a song will hit me in a certain way, and I feel my spirit being turned and being moved. And I sometimes I get excited, sometimes I get overwhelmed, sometimes I get convicted,
Mm.
and yet all of these different times I can look out in any given, and there'll be one or two people that are sitting there seemingly stoic, as the
Yeah.
word may imply, and you look at them and you see a tear
Mm.
rolling down their cheek. And you have to know and understand that God is moving
Yes.
regardless of how I think it ought to look or how I think it should look. Um, sometimes it's just that the spirit needs to be allowed to move freely in every aspect of our worship together. And sometimes there's been times when I've even just played music, let some of the other team members continue to sing, and I just revel
Mm.
in the presence of God. There's other times when everything just needs to go exciting,
Mm-hmm.
when we have baptisms in our church, it's an exciting time to see God change a life.
Yeah.
And so we celebrate that change. We celebrate that love and that life that is made new, as the scripture says. So there are lots of ways on how, uh, and it has everything to do with why. So,
Absolutely. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. That I'm running out of words again. I'm struggling.
yeah, yeah,
I think everything you said is spot on. It really dif- different people are going to respond different ways. But if we are speaking and with worship, if we are singing truth and allowing the Holy Spirit to work in each individual's lives, then how we worship may have an impact on that. But really, how we worship may not amount to anything.
right.
I mean, I have a responsibility as a worship leader to help lead people along from one song to the next.
Yes.
But making somebody move is not on me. Thank the Lord, it's not on me. That's man, and getting to be a part of those services where you can tangibly see the
Yeah.
Spirit move and tangibly feel the Spirit move
Yes.
are incredible opportunities as well.
Yes.
But again, it's that reminder, it's that implication of, oh my goodness, God is
Right.
amazing.
Right. Right. So your years of experience then, um, in your years of experience, what has been some of the things that you've done, some of the ways that you've been able to um, move into leading worship, even when it seems like everything that you've tried to do that morning, or the moments, the minutes, the hours, the days, even before that set period of time that you are leading worship, um, when all of that just seems to go, you know, and even if you're seemingly rushed around, it's getting to be 10:30, it's 10:28, and there's still a song that needs to be put in the projector.
Yeah, or I'm printing
It's
off a
printing
change
off.
in key, or
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So, what are some of the things that you've done over the years to help bring yourself back into the right frame of mind and frame of worship attitude, and so that you're not be again? I think this was from the first episode, second episode, anyway, so that you're not being a distraction
Right.
to the movement of the Holy Spirit.
I think for me, step number one, a at the very top, is to stop and pray. To take that, even if it's 15 seconds, to refocus, to bring. I mean, it's really a refocus. It's okay. Everything this morning has gone sideways. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this to worship God. If I'm playing in the wrong key, I'll stop playing,
Right.
because all the details of how this morning goes, they may turn into distractions because not everything went the way that it should. I mean, somebody on my team may be singing off key because they've had an ear infection all week, and whatever the case is, whatever the issues are, to take just a few seconds. And a lot of times I do this with my team. I'd turn around with a guitar hanging over my shoulder, away from the microphone. I say, "All right, we're gonna take a few seconds and we're gonna pray and we're gonna refocus," because as the leader, my team needs to know where I'm at.
Sure.
They also need to know my focus or my readdress of the focus, and because they're going to pick up on the fact that I'm stressed out because I didn't print the right music or I don't have the words on the screens or whatever the
Right.
case is. They are going to know that I'm stressed out, and if my team knows that I'm stressed, then the congregation knows I'm stressed. And if the
Sure.
congregation knows I'm stressed, that's more of a hindrance to the flow of the service than to start 30 seconds or a minute late, to give myself an opportunity and to give my team an opportunity to refocus, and to hone in on who God is and why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's good.
Probably the other thing, and this is one of those where you got to read the crowd, um, and know your audience, kind of a thing, because I've been involved with a worship team for a group of 20 people, and I've been involved with a worship team, or been a part of a worship event where there were 750,000 people watching online.
Wow.
Uh, that's a scary thing. And
Yes.
the last thing you want to do when there's that many people that are watching is say, "I don't have my stuff together. I've messed up. I'm gonna take a minute. Let's."
Right.
Um, but when it's you and your local church, and I know a lot of people have gone online lately, and that's an episode in and of itself, right? The whole
Yes.
online garbage. But when it's you and your church, and you've built those relationships and you've built that trust with your local church, then you can cash in every once in a while on some of that grace from your people and say, okay, I've started this in the wrong key. We don't have the right rhythm. Let's stop. Let's
Right.
regather. Let's get back together, and then we'll go forward with it. And
Right.
that you're acknowledging the distraction, you're acknowledging the issues, and then you're moving on. You can't do that when there's 750 people watching.
Yeah.
So,
Not well, not always, but yes.
yeah, not always. So that's another, not trick, but another way that I have addressed those issues, when I didn't have the capo on the right fret, or I gave the piano one key and the bass player a different key, and we jump in
Mm.
and none of it's
Yes.
right, or
Yes.
my drummer, it's 6/8 and he's playing in 4/4 and it's just not working. Uh, whatever the case is, okay, let's stop.
Yes.
Turn around and count to my drummer again, or I'll say, okay, what key do you have? What key do you have? Let's get together on this.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's me, right? I'm the one in the wrong key, uh, but yeah, just addressing it, getting it out of the way, and then moving on, and it's a refocus. Again, it's a refocus. One is one's a practical refocus where you need to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Right.
In the practical sense, everybody's got the right music, everybody's got the right rhythm, and then let's go again. One is a spiritual refocus where you take the effort um, to move your mind off of the distractions and back on who God is and why you're there.
Right. That's good. That's good. Yeah, there've been several times when um, we've led worship for teenagers, led worship for uh, pastors, uh, led worship for ministers and their mates at retreats, and just normal, as it were, normal Sunday worship settings, and it just happens. Sometimes it just happens that it doesn't go the way you had designed it or set it up. Um, One of the things that I always do and always pray is, Lord, get me out of the way.
Hmm.
Just simply say, uh, you and I have been putting this stuff on paper so that everybody else can join together. We can all be essentially on the same page, in the same place together, so that we can worship together in a communal setting.
Hmm.
Um, but our audience really is between us and God, between me and God. The desire is for us to all come together in worship God, and we do that communally.
Yeah.
But there's been times when, yeah, I've done exactly what you've said. Started the wrong rhythm, started in the wrong key, or, you know, I know that the capo is my friend as a guitar player, but it's just impossible to capo a piano. So, um, so, and
Yeah.
until somebody comes up with one, it's going to be a while. So,
That's a big capo.
that's a big capo, and um, but even still, um, bass player's got to have it. The keyboard player, all of those things, uh, we all need to be. Um, we don't all have to be in unison, but we do have to be in unity.
Yeah.
And in the process of that is take a step back, take a moment to just say, "Hey, I got in the way, or I messed up," or even if it was somebody else that messed up, as the worship leader, as the responsible party for putting this thing together, this time together for us to come communally in worship, I still have to take the responsibility of setting this up straight and setting it up in the right direction,
Yeah.
so that we can all go in the same mode
Yeah.
of spiritual transportation to the throne room of God. So,
Right.
so
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think you've got a question posed in our our little chat back and forth here. I want to pose it to our audience. You can leave us a comment right here on the podcast, or you can send us an email at messageworshiphearts@gmail.com. But the question is this: what do you do when you are rushed to get worship done? I think this kind of culminates everything we've talked about a little bit this evening, but especially in a time where 93 or 95% of the churches in the U.S. are congregations of 500 or less,
yeah,
which means probably the vast majority of those, the worship pastor's probably not paid or
correct.
is bivocational at least.
Yes,
And so you're doing something else during the week. What do you do when, oh crap, it's 7:30 on a Saturday night and I haven't put worship order together yet?
right.
Uh, so yeah, what do you do when you're rushed to get the worship done? It's always 10:30 on a Sunday morning, right? It comes around the same time every week.
Amazingly enough, every week.
Um, and if you, I don't know if we have a way of doing this anonymously. Maybe there's a way we can just read. If you'd like to be anonymous, just maybe put anonymous on the email somewhere.
There you go.
But and maybe we can read a few of these off in next week's episode. I'm sure there'll be some interesting ones,
Yes.
and hopefully some helpful ones as well for our listeners. But what do you do when you're rushed to get worship done? Um, we all face it every week. We all face it.
Yes. Yes.
So cool.
Fun, fun, fun. Hey, there's a couple of other things that we're going to be doing in the near future. Um, we are setting up um, a worship hearts ready worship workshop weekend.
That's a
Yeah,
mouthful.
yeah. Figure all that out. So our ready weekends, REDI, are designed for us to be able to be a part of what you're doing,
Hmm.
and in particular, help with just giving you some resources, giving you some opportunities to share putting your praise teams together, your groups together, your choirs together, your creative teams together,
Yeah.
and coming together for a Saturday, 4, 5, 6 hours, and allowing some time together for us to breathe
Mm.
and for us to think about what we're doing in worship, uh, what we're trying to accomplish in worship, and how we can best do that
Yeah.
together as a worship team for the local body, in its essence, that makes up the Big C Church worldwide.
Yeah.
Um, but we'd love to help you out. We'd love to partner with you. I'd love to be able to come and help with some of those elements. It will be a matter of what songs do you sing? How many times do you sing them? Yeah. Um, and what keys are made for your worship team? And what keys can your congregation sing? Um, there are a lot of great creative artists, Christian artists out there really putting out some wonderfully moving spiritual music and songs and worship songs. Um, but unless you have a 3 octave range in your voice, some of them are just not as easily attainable in a congregation to be sung.
Phil Wickham.
Yeah, yeah. Chris,
Elevation
yeah,
worship.
Chris, Chris
Sorry.
Tomlin too.
Yeah. I
So,
was,
but
yeah. Yeah.
we're gonna mention a few names, which they're wonderful songs. They're
Oh
great
man.
pieces, and they're very moving. But you might need to change a key.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
may need to move it up 2.5 steps and then sing it an octave lower. There's things like that that we would love to help out and help you help show you how to do those and help to partner with you in sharing that and training, and coaching, consulting, all of those types of things in the process of, also, what kind of distractions are there on your stage?
Mm.
Is there a funny looking pot that has just twigs and things sticking out of it that really mean very little? They don't seem to be adding to the uh, presentation of your worship facilities.
Yeah.
So there's things like that can be done that, with the decor and just as a visual aid presentation. So again, love to partner with you, love to share with you, and if you're into doing 1 act plays, monologues, dialogues, big productions, let us know because we've got some great resources and we've got some great friends that we've learned, and have uh, made great connections with over the years in, some of the easy way, some of the inexpensive ways to be able to put these types of sets together for, something that would go up in 4 hours and you can take it down in 30 minutes. So, just some simple ways of being able to do those types of things. Worshiphearts.org is the place to find most of that. It is an opportunity for us to resource together. That website still is being built. And so we will be building on that, and we'll constantly be allowing people to share in that process as well. But that's where you can contact us. And if you really have a message to get to us, it's message
Message worship hearts
worshiphearts
at
at
gmail.com.
gmail.com. Send
Yeah.
us a note. And in future episodes, we're also going to open up um, a little segment that we will do once a month. And it is a would you rather segment of Worship Hearts. So it's going to be fun. Uh, Matt's sister Noelle is going to help us with some of those questions, and we're going to take those questions. We'll put them out there and then gather up the answers and kind of share with those as well, like we're going to do with the other.
I have a really good one that I want to ask you. It will be an example for our listeners to kind of offer up some of these suggestions and whatnot. And I want to see how you answer because I'm a drummer first. Um, would you rather play with a drummer who can't keep time or a drummer who plays too loud? He's just overpowering cymbals all the time. He can stay on tempo, but he is just overbearing for everything that's going on in the room.
Am I supposed to answer?
Yeah, you got to answer this one.
Well, it is quite the dilemma because I've played with both over the years. Um, I guess depends on if the trap set is mic'd or not, and they're in a booth. If
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
if they're in a booth and they're mic'd and we can control the volume a little bit, then I probably would go with that.
uh huh,
Um, but but I've played with some that somehow in the process can't figure out the way to keep time. My best suggestion to both of them is if you can't hear anybody else, then you're playing too loud, and that's the reason why you're off tempo. So there's my answer.
There you go, folks. And you can leave your answers in the comments below. Whether you're watching on YouTube or if you've come across this on Facebook. And this is also an audio only podcast that is up on Anchor and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever else you find your podcasting apps or websites or any of those types of things. You can find this podcast there, and there are links in the description to exactly what we've talked about. That information on the Ready weekends, a link to our website and to our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and all those wonderful things. Great conversation this evening, Dad. It's an
Yes.
interesting dichotomy. There's my 25-cent word for the evening.
Ooh. I'm
What?
not sure that's not a 50-cent word. Fruition is a 25-cent word. That one
Yeah.
might be 50 cents worth.
Okay. All right. At least 35 cents, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you do? What do you do when you are rushed to get worship done? Leave us a comment, shoot us an email, whatever you'd like. But until next time,
Love to hear from you.
yeah, shoot us a message. We don't have a sign off. We need a sign off.
We've got to figure out. Hey, maybe our listening audience can help us with a sign off as well.
That's a great idea. It's better than this.
That's probably true.
We'll see y'all next week.
Bye now.